Hi guys, Christian Chi Trend here, and welcome to the channel for unlocking your universal energy potential. In this week's video, I want to talk about letting go. So this is a process that I've been working through recently with a number of things in my life, and I think it's something that can benefit you greatly. So let's talk about it. Now, as I've mentioned before on this channel, it's our thoughts that create our feelings, and it's our feelings which are our emotions. Now, what are emotions? Well, if thoughts are the language of the brain, then our emotions are the language of the body. And if you think of your body as a big chemical production facility, a big factory, producing all these different chemicals, and if you think of our mind as being the sort of control room for the factory, well, we have thoughts, and those thoughts, depending on whether they're positive or negative, will create emotions. And the emotions are produced in the factories as different chemical reactions within our body, within our physiology. And for example, if we're having negative thoughts, that may well instruct the body to produce the chemical of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which can make us feel anxious, tightens up the muscle and the body. It can raise the heartbeat, the pulse. And that's what the stress feeling that we get is the cortisol being produced within our body. And vice versa, it can work the other way around. Surrounding our mind with positive thoughts and hanging out with positive thoughts, we can create dopamine, which can make us feel quite happy and relaxed. Serotonin, which can make us feel empathetic and happy and relaxed and energetic. So it works both ways. So we have a thought that then that elicits the emotional response within the body and creates then the impact on the body in terms of what those chemicals do to us. So would it not be better then if we decide to focus only on our certain more positive thoughts? Well, to do that, you have to go through a process of letting go with some areas of your life. So for example, I used to be quite passionate about politics. I did a degree in politics. However, I know it doesn't serve me to sort of have a passion in it, because in this environment that we live in now with the mainstream media and the echo chambers of social media, you just sort of, everything's divided into two camps, and it's a war zone, and it's not something that's productive or good for you. If we talk about what would be the point in a guy in England obsessing over American politics, whereas I used to, and that would elicit a negative chemical reaction within the body, because you're always wanting, you're supporting your person over the other person, or your team over the other team. It doesn't achieve anything. It doesn't benefit you to be worried about Trump, or be worried about Biden, or worried about Brexit, or remaining, or COVID. Actually, you can only control what's in your own life, and spending a significant amount of time thinking and worrying about these things, all that's doing is putting stress on the body. It's not loving to yourself to constantly be thinking about these things. It's not to say they're not important, but it's not loving to yourself. And perhaps the quickest way you can solve these things actually in the world, and the ills of the world, if you like, is by cutting them out, by being loving to yourself, and by becoming a happy, more joyful, more compassionate, more giving, more grateful person. And by doing that and changing the inner world and convincing other people, leading by example and getting other people to change their inner world, that would then start a sea change to change the world. But just obsessing about it from a distance won't solve anything. So we need to let go. And in the example I just gave, maybe you need to stop consuming media. I don't consume media anymore, and I feel a hell of a lot better for it. I used to have news apps. I used to go onto news websites. I used to get notifications. I used to watch Sky News, BBC News, flick through the other ones sometimes, RT, CNN, Fox. I used to watch these things. But I found that it never made me feel good, because most of the news is negative. Same with the newspapers. You can pretty much flick through a newspaper and it's negative, negative, negative. Different slants of negative depending on which newspaper you're reading, which media outlet you're consuming your news from. So the best thing to do is to cut it out. And I would say cutting out the politics of Twitter and Facebook is also helpful too. It's not so easy in that environment. You may just want to leave those platforms. But yeah, cutting that stuff out has made me feel a lot better. You just need to let go. Yeah, when things don't go your way. If you was a Remainer and you didn't want Brexit, there's no point in hanging on to it now. If you loved Donald Trump but hated Joe Biden, what value are you getting from thinking about it now? You know, you need to let go and realize that you're not going to have an impact on those things. Now, the same can also be said of some of our personal relationships that we have with people. Maybe there's certain things that we just know we're always going to come into conflict with people on. Maybe there's a conversation. Maybe you always argue with your mother about money. Maybe you always argue with, I don't know, your flatmate or someone else about COVID. Letting go of these things too is helpful, because it doesn't serve you well to have an argument where you're trying to put your point across and the other person's got the opposite view. You're not going to change each other's view, and all you're going to do is leave that situation both feeling shit. So it doesn't serve you to have those conversations and leave yourself feeling shit, because you'll create that negative chemical reaction within the body, which long term science has shown, the studies are in, that stress causes ill health, stress causes death. In fact, only 2% of all disease comes from our genetic information, from our DNA. We are born with it. Things like celiac disease is an example, but only 2%. The other 98% of illness comes from our environment. It comes from our thoughts, how stressed we are. Are we putting ourselves under a constant amount of stress that then releases all these negative things in the body, which then wind us down over time and shorten our lives? It comes from the food that we consume, the air that we breathe, the water that we drink. These are all the things that actually cause disease. We're not born with disease. We develop disease. It's rare that you are born with a pre-existing condition that's going to impact your life long term. So we need to practice letting go. This can be things, ideas that we hang on to. We get these from our beliefs. Often we have a view on something and it comes from deep held beliefs. That's what it stems from. Beliefs that have been sort of instilled in us by our parents or through various other types of conditioning, perhaps school or perhaps other family members, perhaps through childhood trauma, perhaps it's subliminal, subconscious. We hold beliefs. And that's where our thoughts and our views come from sometimes. But it's better to hold your views lightly. And it's better to not sort of strongly support one side or the other. It's better to be diplomatic. It's better to have a gentle view about things. And you'll find that you'll benefit from that. So you need to let go. If I give you an example. So before my partner moved to England to move in with me, my sort of main concern was that we'd be on completely different sleeping patterns, and that would be the only thing that potentially would separate us over time, was that we'd be like ships passing in the night, different sleeping patterns. It won't work. So I was very adamant that we had to go to bed at the same time and have a similar sleeping pattern. And I made a massive red line out of that in my head. For me, that was all or nothing. If that rule was crossed, then we might as well give up now. But then going through this process recently of learning to let go of things, I understood that was just some constraint that I had applied to our relationship and to myself, and that wasn't really necessary. And in the end, we've reached a compromise now, actually, and it's working pretty well. I do go to bed by myself a part of the night, and sometimes I do get woken up, but overall I'm sleeping better than if I was letting it bother me. And I certainly wouldn't be splitting up over such a minor detail. I should never have made it into such a big thing in my head at the time. So that's just one example, but there could be other things. Remember, our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings then create the emotions, the chemicals in the body, which then can cause stress or happiness. So why not pick? Why not have happy thoughts? Why not put yourself in a positive place? Why not every single time you start to obsess over something political in your head, why not keep it to yourself? Why not change your thoughts and put yourself in a happy place instead and start releasing some of that serotonin, some of that dopamine, some of those feel-good chemicals? Why not do some exercise? Why not release some endorphins? You know, why not do something like that? You know, if I want to go to a happy place, I close my eyes and I imagine myself standing under the ice cannon in Amnesia Ibiza with Marco Corrado on the decks and me having a great time. You know, and that's soon, the mind doesn't know the difference. That's the thing. Your mind does not know the difference between the real and the imaginary. If you close your eyes and imagine a happy scenario, your body will start to produce the chemicals as if you was in that scenario, and vice versa. If you're constantly going to live in your head worrying about the future, too much future is anxiety. If you're worrying about the future, your body is starting to create those chemicals to stress you out about it now. Or worried about the past, your body is creating those chemicals now, causing that depression of too much past. So give it a try. If you like my content, please do subscribe, hit the like button, share my videos. I look forward to speaking to you again soon. I'm Christian Chi Tran. Thanks for listening.